She's not thinking about you right now. She's not lying awake wondering how you're feeling. She's not watching your stories or checking in to see if you're okay. She moved on, and every second you waste rethinking what happened is another second you hand over your power. You thought she was different. You believed in the version of her you made up in your head. But the truth is, she left. Maybe without explanation. Maybe without remorse. She's not coming back. And if she does, it's not because she loves you. It's because she misses your validation, your energy, your loyalty, the kind you gave for free. She didn't leave because you were too much. She left because you stopped feeding her ego. And now you're standing in the ruins of something that only existed in your mind. Listen closely, because this might be the most important thing you'll ever hear. You cannot move forward if you keep giving CPR to something that's already dead. You're not weak for hurting, but you are staying weak by staying stuck. Comment below, no more loops if you're ready to break free. This is a wake-up call for every man who gave his all and got left in silence, for every man who over-explained, over-apologized, over-waited, for someone who just didn't care enough to stay. You don't need therapy right now. You need truth. You need to feel your power again. This video isn't about making you feel good. It's about making you feel strong. We're going to walk through the fire, not away from it, not numb, not distracted. We're going to stand in front of everything that hurt, everything that broke you, everything you've been avoiding, and burn it to the ground. Using one of the greatest weapons ever known to men, Stoicism. This isn't some soft self-help nonsense. This is about regaining your masculine clarity, your inner stability, and your unshakable discipline, because emotions don't make you weak. But letting them control you, that's the true loss of manhood. Every section of this video is a punch to the soul, a challenge to the ego, and a map back to your throne. Don't just watch this, feel this, and if it hits you, support the channel. Because the more you do, the more we can reach the men who need this most. Men like you. Number 1, don't replay the hurt. You keep trying to dissect the moment it all fell apart, like replaying it one more time will give you closure. But the truth is, every time you hit rewind, you stab the same wound again with a dull blade, and then wonder why it never stops bleeding. Stop searching for hidden messages in her last text. Stop reading the silence between her words, as if her absence holds a secret formula to make the pain go away. Because it doesn't, it won't, and it never will. The reality is, she left, and whether she left you on read or in person, the result is the same. She's gone, and your need to find why is your way of avoiding the truth you don't want to face, that she stopped choosing you, and now you must choose yourself. This is not the time for philosophical overthinking. This is the time for ruthless action, for daily strategy, for a mental detox that begins with a zero-tolerance policy for rumination. When the thought of her creeps in, you don't negotiate with it. You replace it with movement, with reading something high value, with lifting weights, with 10 push-ups on the spot, with deleting her photos if they're still in your phone like digital landmines waiting to go off. And if her scent lingers in your space, open the windows, scrub the sheets, reclaim the air because this is your temple, and her energy has no business here. Throw out the hoodie you let her borrow that she never returned. Trash the playlist that plays like a soundtrack to your lowest moment, and stop stalking her social media like a digital beggar, scavenging for signs that she still cares. She doesn't. And that's a gift, because indifference is permission to evolve without permission. The man who heals is the one who deletes with intent, who journals to let go, not to justify staying stuck, who blocks not out of pettiness, but out of purpose. You are not trying to hurt her. You're protecting yourself from bleeding out emotionally in a war she stopped fighting long ago. Break the pattern by creating new ones. Set alarms for when you usually spiral and use that time to do something measurable, learn a skill, break a sweat, execute something that shifts your identity, because every productive action is a nail in the coffin of that broken version of you that still thinks her validation equals your value. She left, and whether she left kindly or coldly doesn't matter. What matters is you build a mental firewall so solid that even if she texted you tomorrow, your inner voice would scream louder than her words and remind you that no woman who genuinely loves you would ever put you in the position you're in right now. Make this a day where every distraction becomes a decision and every temptation becomes a test you pass, because you are no longer living in emotional debt. She took what she needed, and now you take back what was always yours. Focus, clarity, discipline, and purpose. Think of every minute you've wasted over-analyzing her like a tax on your potential, and decide you're no longer going to fund the pain with your attention. Rewire your mental muscle memory so the default is action. If your brain drifts to her, you pick up a book, you call a brother, you go outside, you do something physical, you speak affirmations like a warrior chants before battle, because you are not trying to escape the memory. You are outgrowing it, one decisive moment at a time. And if you feel weak, good. That means you're still in the ring, because weak men stay down. But warriors bleed and build and don't stop when they're tired. They stop when they've rebuilt the kind of life no woman can walk away from without regret. And even if she never regrets it, you won't care, because your evolution made her irrelevant. Number 2. Pain is your teacher. You want the pain to stop, but pain doesn't go away just because you want it to. Pain stops when it teaches you what it came to teach you, and most men waste this lesson. They numb it, they medicate it with meaningless pleasure, they avoid it with distractions, and in doing so, they trade a temporary high for a permanent weakness. Your pain is not a punishment, it's a professor, and right now, you're in the most important class of your life. Pay attention, because it's trying to show you something about yourself, something you didn't want to admit when you were happy and blind and wrapped around her finger. But now that you're raw and broken, the truth is clearer than ever. You let someone else define your worth, you let her approval dictate your energy, and you betrayed your own intuition in exchange for intimacy that wasn't real. That's what pain reveals, not her flaws, but yours, and that's where the power lives. Because once you see the part you played, you regain control. Stop asking why she did it. Start asking why you tolerated it, why you kept texting when she was pulling away, why you kept explaining yourself when she stopped listening, why you kept trying to love someone who only responded to withdrawal, silence, or chaos. That's what the pain is here to reveal, and if you keep ignoring it, you stay in the same cycle with a different face next time. Real men don't run from pain. They interrogate it. They sit with it like a fire and let it burn off the parts of them that were weak, needy, desperate, and disconnected from purpose. So what do you do right now? You make a list of everything you know you tolerated that violated your standards, and you write next to each one what you'll never allow again. You don't just feel the pain, you weaponize it, you turn it into a blueprint, you get painfully honest about where you abandoned your masculinity for the illusion of love, and you use that honesty like a sword to cut off any behavior that made her loss even possible. You get physically strong because the body is the first battleground, and your pain is not just in your heart. It's in your nervous system, it's in your posture, it's in the way you walk through the world looking defeated. Train until your mirror reflects someone who scares the boy who begged for her back. You get mentally sharp because pain clouds your thinking, and if you're not vigilant, you'll romanticize abuse and call it love. Read daily, reflect nightly, journal without mercy, write letters to the man you want to become and make promises you can't break. And spiritually, you anchor yourself in something eternal. something she can't touch, philosophy, faith, brotherhood, something that reminds you your soul doesn't depend on her presence to be powerful. And when the pain comes back, and it will, you don't resist it. You nod to it like an old friend who reminds you that you're still human, but you don't let it drive anymore. You sit it in the back seat and you keep your hands on the wheel, because pain can visit, but it doesn't get to lead your life. Let this pain harden your focus. Let it soften your ego. Let it sharpen your values, because you'll never forget how it felt to beg in silence. But that memory will one day become a vow you never break. The vow that says no woman will ever again break a man who knows who he is. Number 3. What you can control. You can't control if she changed her mind about you. You can't control if she chose another man. You can't control the lies she told herself to justify leaving. You can't control the way she rewrote the story to make herself the victim. You can't control her silence, her indifference, her need for drama, or the way she moved on like you never mattered. But what you can control is what you do with the pain, what you choose to build with the energy you were wasting trying to understand her, and what you decide this moment will mean in the story of your life. The Stoics knew that power lies not in what happens to you, but in how you respond to it, and every time you act like you're helpless because she walked away, you are forgetting that real power is never taken. It's given away, usually by men who don't know their own strength. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." And freedom comes from understanding what you can control and letting go of what you can't. And if you understand that, you will walk through this storm not as a victim, but as a man being refined by fire. Because everything she took from you was never yours if it could be taken. But what's yours now? Your thoughts, your purpose, your body, your next move. That's where your kingdom begins. So what can you do right now? Start with your body, because this is your first battlefield. Every time you feel that ache in your chest, every time your stomach tightens because of another memory, every time your head spins with what ifs, you go do something that gets you back into your physical frame. Train hard, push your limits, lift heavier, run longer, sweat with intent, because pain that stays inside turns toxic. But pain that's channeled into the physical world turns into power. And with each rep, you're reminding yourself that you can carry weight, not just iron, but emotional burdens too. And then fix your space. Clean your room like you're preparing for war, like you're re-establishing order in your empire, because chaos outside reflects chaos within, and no king lives in filth. Build a fortress of order where your mind can think clearly, where no trace of her remains, where the very scent of your environment says, "This space belongs to a man on a mission." Then you attack your mind. You read the texts that build resilience. You flood your brain with content that sharpens your thinking. You cut off all consumption that pacifies you or turns you soft. If it makes you feel numb, cut it. If it makes you laugh but not grow, cut it. If it gives you excuses, kill it with truth. And finally, take control of your time. Not in theory, but with brutal practicality. Break your day into blocks. Assign every hour a purpose, and track it with the same intensity you'd track a financial investment, because every hour you waste is a deposit in a future of mediocrity, and every hour you conquer is a step toward a life where no woman, no betrayal, no storm can shake you from your center. You are the author of every minute that follows this one, and no matter what she did, the one thing she cannot write is your response. That pen is in your hand, and it always has been. Number 4, break the thought loop. The thought loop is where men die, not physically, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally, a slow, silent death that starts when the same memory keeps replaying with different words, different angles, different imaginary outcomes, and every loop promises some kind of closure, some kind of understanding, some kind of healing. But all it really does is deepen the wound and make your mind a prison where she's the warden and you've handed her the keys without realizing it. You can't break free by thinking harder, you can't solve your way out with logic, and you certainly can't out-feel the loop by spiraling deeper into nostalgia. Because thought loops don't respond to emotion, they respond to interruption. And if you want to escape the mental hamster wheel that's keeping you stuck, you have to act so decisively, so disruptively, that your brain has no choice but to start rerouting itself toward a new identity. And you know what creates disruption? Aggressive action. You hear her name echo in your mind. You get down and do 50 push-ups. You feel that image of her laughing with someone else take over your imagination. You walk outside and do 5 wind sprints like your sanity depends on it, because in that moment, it does. When the loop starts, you don't think, you move, because movement cuts the circuit and gives you back control over your operating system. And don't stop at the body. Go after your digital environment too, because thought loops often come with triggers, photos, messages, social media rabbit holes. Kill them all without hesitation. Uninstall the apps if you have to, set blockers, delete contacts. Do whatever it takes to make your phone a tool of power, not a weapon of relapse. And then comes your internal language, because the loop lives in what you allow yourself to say internally. What if I was better? What if she misses me? What if I reach out just once? Every one of those thoughts is a virus, and your job is to treat your mind like a sacred space where only truth survives. And the truth is this: she's not coming back the way you want her to, and even if she did, it wouldn't be the fantasy you're clinging to. It would be another version of the same chaos that broke you in the first place. So you create a new narrative, a new thought loop, one that says, I am healing, I am building, I am done explaining my worth, and you repeat it like a soldier memorizing battle code, because if you don't rewire your brain, it will default back to her like a junkie to the needle. And lastly, take back your nights, because the loop loves the quiet, loves the dark, loves the solitude, so fight back with routine. Every night before bed, you write down what you did right that day. You journal your wins, your growth, your strength, and you write a short message to the man you're becoming, because when the loop tries to whisper that you're still broken, you'll have written proof that you're not. This is not about forgetting her. It's about building a mental fortress so strong that even if her name echoes, it bounces off your new identity like a weak signal trying to reach a phone that's no longer in service. And you are finally unreachable by the chaos that used to call itself love. Number 5. Stop seeking closure. The biggest illusion that keeps men trapped in pain isn't her absence. It's the hope that somehow, someday, she's going to come back with the perfect set of words that make everything make sense, that she'll sit you down and tell you why it happened, that she'll look you in the eyes and finally admit she was wrong or confused or immature or afraid. And in that moment, the ache in your chest will disappear, the confusion in your mind will settle, and the pieces of your broken heart will snap back together like it was all just a mistake waiting to be corrected. But that fantasy is the very prison that's keeping you in emotional limbo, because the brutal truth is that closure doesn't come from her, it comes from you. And the longer you chase it externally, the more power you give away to someone who's already shown you they're capable of hurting you without explanation. You keep thinking there's one last conversation that will tie the bow on this chaos. But let's be real, if she had the capacity to give you honest closure, she would have given it to you before you were left guessing, doubting, and apologizing to yourself for being too much, too loyal, too invested. She left not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And if she needed to disappear or go silent or spin the story in her favor, then whatever explanation you think you need will either be watered down, weaponized, or worse, a lie she tells herself to sleep at night. And even if she came back with the truth, even if she sat you down and spilled everything, what exactly do you expect to happen? That the pain goes away, that the betrayal becomes bearable, that the disrespect turns into something noble? Closure isn't a dialogue, it's a decision. It's when you decide that you don't need validation to move forward, that her version of the story doesn't get to define your growth, that you don't require the one who hurt you to explain why they did it before you start healing, because healing doesn't wait for permission. It happens the moment you stop outsourcing your peace to someone who already proved they couldn't protect it. And what can you do right now to end this toxic waiting game? You close the chapter with your own pen. Write out the story of what happened as honestly and as raw as possible, and then below it, write out what you learned, what you tolerated, what red flags you ignored, and then at the bottom of the page, draw a line and write, "She is no longer a part of the future I am building." That's your closure. And no, it's not dramatic. It's not some therapy cliché. It's a declaration of sovereignty, a reminder that you don't need a co-author to write your next chapter. And every time the craving for her words comes back, for her apology, for her explanation, remind yourself that those desires are echoes from an old identity, the part of you that needed someone else to validate your worth, and that part of you is dying, not because you're heartless, but because you're evolving. Make peace with the unanswered questions. Let them remain questions if they must, but don't let them remain anchors. You weren't meant to stay here, replaying old conversations and wondering if she meant it when she said she loved you. Because if she did, you wouldn't be here alone, staring into your own mind, looking for reasons she didn't have the courage to say. This is the final test. Stop checking the door she walked out of, and start building the door you'll walk through next, because the only closure that matters is the moment you realize you don't need her to look back for you to move forward. Number 6. Feel the void, then fill it. The reason it hurts so much when she leaves isn't just because of what she did. It's because of what you gave, because of how much of yourself you wrapped around her image, because of the space you made for her in your routines, in your identity, in your future. And when she disappeared, she didn't just take her presence. She took the version of you that only made sense when she was around. And now there's this gaping hole where her name used to live, a silent void that echoes with the memories of laughter and intimacy and plans that will never happen. And that's where most men stay stuck, in the void, staring into the darkness of what used to be, trying to avoid the silence with distractions, with noise, with quick dopamine hits that never satisfy, because nothing truly numbs the void except one thing: purpose. This void is not here to consume you. It's here to invite you to step deeper into yourself than you ever have before, to realize that what you were calling love was actually a merger of identity, a shortcut to meaning, a reliance on her to fill parts of you that were empty long before she arrived. And now that she's gone, you have two choices: collapse under the weight of that emptiness, or fill it with something so solid, so sacred, so powerful, that the next woman you meet finds a man who doesn't need her to feel whole. And what can you do right now, today, begin that process? First, sit in the void, not with self-pity, but with honesty. Feel every ache, every silence, every pang of what's missing, and don't flinch, because what you feel right now is the cost of clarity. Clarity is the first step toward reconstruction. Then decide what version of yourself that woman knew no longer gets to survive. The man who overextended, who overtexted, who bent his truth to keep her comforted. That man dies now, and in his place is someone who reclaims his energy, his habits, his mission, piece by piece, breath by breath, action by action. You begin to build the new foundation, starting with your mornings. Wake up at a set time, train your body with discipline, fuel yourself with clean food, read texts that shape your mind, journal thoughts that sharpen your self-awareness, and track your progress like your future depends on it, because it does. Then move into your work, your career, your calling, your creative output, not as a way to get her back, but as a ritual of remembrance that your value doesn't come from anyone outside of you. And the more you build, the more you realize she wasn't the source of your joy. She was a season, and seasons pass, but purpose remains. Surround yourself with brothers, with men who sharpen you, who don't let you spiral into simping, who call you higher, because the void screams loudest in isolation. But in brotherhood, the void becomes a forge. And most importantly, you make a vow that every day you will fill your life with so much structure, so much creation, so much effort and execution and fire that the void doesn't disappear. It becomes irrelevant, not because it never existed, but because you built something greater around it. This is how you win, not by rebounding, not by pretending you're over it, but by turning the void into the birthplace of your new empire. Number 7, make her irrelevant. The most powerful form of revenge isn't loud, it's not dramatic, and it doesn't happen in public. The most powerful form of revenge is becoming the man she can no longer access, no longer understand, and no longer affect in any way. Because while she might have left your life, the only reason she still holds space in your mind is because you haven't finished building the version of yourself that renders her existence meaningless. You don't make her irrelevant by trying to forget her. You make her irrelevant by becoming someone she would never be qualified to stand next to. Someone so driven, so grounded, so clear on his path that the idea of her doesn't even register as a blip on your radar. And the way you get there isn't by faking strength or pretending you're over it or drowning yourself in distractions. It's by choosing every single day to build yourself from the ground up with discipline so violent it drowns out every memory of her presence. And how do you start that process? You begin small, because big transformations are built on tiny, consistent steps that create new neural pathways, new identity markers, new emotional blueprints. You start by making your bed not as a chore, but as a message to your subconscious that your space is sacred now, that no chaos is allowed to live here anymore. Then you take your phone and you wipe it clean, delete every photo, every message thread, every voice note, every screenshot, every trace of her digital fingerprint from your world, because keeping those things isn't sentiment, it's self-sabotage, and you are no longer a man who tolerates the presence of ghosts in his kingdom. Then you go for a run, not to chase anything, but to remind your body that it's capable of power, of forward motion, of resilience, and with every stride you take, you reclaim a piece of your energy that you left at her doorstep. After the run, you hydrate, you stretch, you eat something clean. Not because you're trying to become some fitness influencer, but because you understand that control over your cravings is the beginning of control over your life. Next, you take 15 minutes and you journal with ruthless honesty. Write down how you feel, not how you think you should feel. And then, on the other side of the page, write down the man you are becoming, the habits he has, the standards he upholds, the people he surrounds himself with. And then, pick one of those habits and do it immediately. Whether it's reading 10 pages from a book that feeds your mind, or making a list of business ideas you've been sleeping on, or researching how to build a second stream of income that makes sure no woman ever has financial leverage over you again. And when the urge comes to check her page, or reread her message, or stalk her stories, you don't fight it with willpower alone. You replace it with ritual. You drop and do push-ups. You open a book and read aloud. You message a brother and tell him what you're feeling, because transparency creates accountability, and accountability creates elevation. And each day you do this, you create distance, not just time, but identity space, because the man you're becoming would never tolerate the things you once begged for. And that's how you know she's becoming irrelevant, not because she changed, but because you did. You now measure yourself not by how she responds, but by how you execute. Did you train today? Did you eat with purpose? Did you read, reflect, and work with focus? Did you speak your truth, even if it made others uncomfortable? Did you hold the line on your boundaries? These are the metrics now, not her attention, not her opinions, not her games. And yes, you will have moments where her name echoes, where her face flashes through your mind, but you don't feed those thoughts. You observe them like clouds passing by, and then you go back to your blueprint, back to your schedule, back to your process, because the man who wins isn't the one who forgets her fastest. It's the one who builds so ruthlessly that remembering her doesn't change anything, doesn't slow him down, doesn't make him question who he is. And if you keep this up, if you keep stacking the wins, keep executing without exception, keep pouring your energy into yourself, your mission, your circle, there will come a day where someone mentions her name and you don't feel anything, not anger, not sadness, not longing, just distance, the kind of emotional distance that can't be faked, because you'll know in your bones that she no longer matters in your story, not because she's evil, but because you outgrew her, and you'll look back and realize that the moment you stopped making her the center of your universe was the moment you stepped into your throne as a man who builds, who leads, who chooses himself. And no woman, no memory, no wound can take that from you ever again. She was a chapter. You are the whole book. This journey isn't about her anymore. It's about you, your mind, your fire, your future. Don't just watch videos. Don't just feel inspired. Act. Building, reflect. Evolve. Repeat. And when the world asks what happened to you, you smile and say, I remembered who I was. If this spoke to your soul, support the mission. Comment, I choose power below. Like. Subscribe. Share this with a man who needs to rise. By supporting this channel, you help make this message a lifeline for men who've been left in silence. Together, we turn heartbreak into blueprints. We don't just move on. We rebuild legacies.